So I'm very pleased to be able to bring up to the stage now our friend Greg Clark. Greg is a mentor, an advisor, and kind of an extraordinary person who has been working in cities all over the world. And for the last couple days, as he'll talk about, Greg has been convening with our partners at the Ford Foundation and the World Bank a workshop with leaders from other cities to talk about what they think. And we've been actually just having sessions where we say, this is what we're doing, how would you approach it? And so Greg, thank you for joining us, and share your remarks, please.
Great. Tom, thank you very much. Well, good morning to everyone. As you can tell already from my voice, I don't come from the region. I come from London, and for the last 25 years, regional strategy for London has basically been my challenge. We're delighted to be here, and this week we've had the first meeting of a group that's committed to being international friends for the fourth regional plan for this region. We are in good contact with colleagues in Tokyo, Hong Kong, and Singapore. And this week we convened here in New York people from London and Paris and Seoul, Barcelona, Sydney, Cape Town, Auckland, Moscow, Johannesburg, Sao Paulo, Vienna, and Bogota. And we've spent 3 days here in the region looking at this region, reflecting on our own, and trying to understand what we can offer by way of impetus for this effort. I'd like also to thank everyone who came with me from around the world, but also the RPA, the Ford Foundation, and Siemens for hosting us. Now, over these 3 days, we've reviewed the regional planning efforts in those regions and also here in New York. And our reflections could take many hours to communicate, but I'm going to try and boil it down to two or three key points. The first thing I want to say is that everyone's aware that this region has been a great leader, a great innovator, and an inspiration to city regions around the world. And we all feel very humble when we're here, thinking, what on earth can we offer to this region by way of thoughts and ideas? And it's got an extraordinary wealth of assets. It's got world-leading business clusters in professional services and finance, in media and information, in medicine, education, tourism, leisure, culture, arts, food, logistics, retail, distribution, and also still in some elements of manufacturing. And these world-leading clusters attract talent, they attract capital, they create vibrancy, they give this place reach into the world. And they're also enhanced by great cultural, artistic, educational institutions, great feats of engineering, utilities, infrastructure, urban amenities, parks, public spaces, urban design and architecture. It's all there to see. And for most of the last 100 years, these have been augmented by a profound openness to people from all over the world, a deep spirit of enterprise and trade, and a confident framework of what I would call rule-based meritocratic competition. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. And that has inspired the world to trust this region as a place which is safe for investment, safe for talent, safe for business. The region's also proved, I think, very capable in making substantive progress in the face of challenge, reducing crime, which has been an incredible achievement, improving educational performance, investing in public space, investing in the arts and culture. So this region is a great leader of the world, and the world has high expectations of what this region will deliver. But for a number of important reasons, the group that met in this city this week have become concerned about the future of this great region. And I want to outline 3 challenges that we think are here on the table. The first challenge is what I would call the risk of unmanaged growth. Now, successful regions grow. They attract population and they retain population, as Tom said. In London, in Hong Kong, in Paris, population is growing by about 1 million people every 10 years. In Shanghai and Beijing, it's growing more quickly. But about 1 million people every 10 years is what you have to manage if you're going to be successful. And the region continues to grow, this region, because It attracts people who are seeking opportunity, and it retains people who want to maintain opportunity and quality of life. Population growth is a sign of success. It's an indication of increasing future potential. But population growth only translates into success if that growth is managed well. And the tools of population growth management are investment in housing, investment in schools, in clinics, in amenities, in transport, in infrastructure, and in redevelopment projects. Growth management requires changing densities and land uses. It involves renegotiating how the region is configured, what goes where. Managed growth is a continuous process of adjusting the settled character of the past with incremental improvements and with major development projects. The way that growth can be accommodated, in ways that keep prices stable and reduce inequalities between the haves and the have-nots. But unmanaged growth, as we know, is about failing to deliver the housing, the schools, the railways, and other amenities that are needed. It's about rapidly rising costs of housing, services, food, and other essentials. It's about those that have homes and have good educations and have health care, locking out those that do not have homes and education and health care. And it's about attitudes of retaining what we have, not expanding what's available. The costs of unmanaged growth are social and economic, locking people out of the labor market, keeping them away from opportunities, and they're also environmental. They erode confidence in the region and in the future. Now, we're concerned that within this region, there is not yet a fully comprehensive plan to manage the growth that you will undoubtedly attract, and that could lead to an erosion of your economic and social success. So that is the first challenge. The second challenge is about competitive threats. Our observation is that relative to other competitor regions, this region is now falling behind on investment, coordination, modernization, and building new capacity. Tokyo's strong regional government produces consistently high levels, about $10 billion every 5 years, of investment in its transport system. Hong Kong's alliance with the Pearl River Delta produces a region much larger than this region, which is building new airports, new railway lines, new bridges, new tunnels, new subways. London and Paris, despite the fact that they often fight with their national governments, enjoy substantive support from their national governments so that London is able to build not just the high-speed Channel Tunnel rail link, which has been open for 20 years, but Crossrail 1 and now coming soon Crossrail 2, high-speed rail in the Metropolitan region. And Paris is investing $40 billion over the next 20 years in its rail system. Singapore's powerful self-government is able to continuously invest in infrastructure, in urban redevelopment, and in creating new land. Now, all of this, in this framework of comparison, I think the tri-state region now appears to be at a decisive disadvantage. It's locked into a low investment, low coordination, low return equilibrium that does not raise enough capital for your important systems and doesn't charge enough for using the systems in order to leverage more capital. At the same time, the frameworks that have been the historical character of this region, openness to talent, tax rules which are flexible, business and entrepreneurial systems which work for business people, seem to be under threat. And new kinds of regulation, particularly in the immigration sphere, seem to me to be tackling the very DNA of the region. Can it be possible that this region is no longer open to international talent in the way it once was? So these look to us like competitive disadvantages, and they will be experienced in terms of loss of jobs, income, investment, and the prestige of the region overall. That's the second challenge. The third one concerns environmental vulnerability and systems weaknesses. Hurricane Sandy has obviously been a huge wake-up call in the region, and not just here, but for others. Other regions around the world have taken note of what's happened here in New York and been concerned about it. Most of the world's great city regions are on the ocean side, and they're all vulnerable to sea level rises and to climatic events. And most of the others are now taking steps to invest not just in flood defenses, but in energy systems, in telecoms, in broadband, wastewater, sanitation, earthquake resilience, heat defenses, and many other systems. Now, while we've been here this week, we've heard a lot about all of the talk about investing in more resilient and more integrated systems in this region. But we've also heard many people lament that the talk is not being translated into action, and that the concerns are reactive to flood defenses only and not to the broader suite of regional systems that are required. So we think that remains a challenge and a vulnerability that will damage the region's reputation as well as its performance. So for these three reasons, the risk of unmanaged growth, the competitive threat from other global regions, the environmental vulnerabilities, and the system weaknesses, we've concluded that you need to take action. There are many reasons to be optimistic about this region, but being optimistic is not the same as being complacent. The reason this region has made so much progress in the past is because leaders at the regional level took action when it was required, and we, as a group of friends from outside the region, think it's time for you to do that again. Thank you.